With his best friend, Xi Jinping might not be content. When Xi Jinping came to power in China 10 years ago, he saw Vladimir Putin as a powerful, hostile leader of the Western-dominated international system. They deal with situations where their authority is threatened and share best practices in internal governance, leading the world to tolerate authoritarian rule. She described Putin as his best friend. After the Wagner incident, Xi's rhetoric about the Russian leadership did not go well. Russia's brutal war that led to the killing of Wagner Bloc paramilitary leader Yevgeny Prigozhin last month has revealed what Russia really is under Putin, a weak state, with its long-standing leadership giving way to nuclear hope. No promises. Xi Jinping cannot completely stop Putin. Although Russia still attaches importance to China, it has invested heavily in the relations between the two countries. But the brothers who had so much fun in the West will come to an end. If Xi Jinping achieves his goal of making America the best in the world, he will have to adjust his foreign policy to address Putin's weaknesses. This could mean more support for an end to the war that has hurt the Russian leadership and less opposition to the US and Taiwan. There are signs that the relationship between Xi Jinping and Putin may not be good. Beijing has only downplayed its reaction to Wagner's work, calling it an internal matter, but reports of the attempted coup have appeared in Chinese state media. Xi Jinping won't be content with giving Putin a free check. Doing so could put internal pressure on Xi's foreign policy, which could worsen if Putin suffers more. China may have changed its stance on the war in Ukraine. Although Beijing now rejects the call for peace, it has provided Moscow with a lot of help and the war necessary to protect NATO from a major attack or the West. Beijing also gave Moscow the opportunity to counter Western sanctions by expanding Sino-Russian trade. Despite long-standing signs that Chinese leaders are failing to follow Putin's war strategy, the conflict has sparked hopes in China that Putin will intervene in the American withdrawal from Asia, as Beijing tries to expand its influence. This has not happened yet. Instead, Washington and its Asian allies, which have established a military presence around China since the Ukraine war, are now more united to prevent China's attacks on key technologies. Putin works alone. But now China understands that the war in Ukraine could threaten its Russian allies and undermine its foreign policy. His motivation is to go beyond the uncertainty of the content of the war, specifically to use his influence over Moscow to end the conflict. One of the main reasons for this is Europe, where the image of China supporting Russia has been damaged. European trade confidence in China worsened, foreign direct investment slowed, and transatlantic cooperation with China tightened. Xi Jinping is determined to protect the United States from Beijing's control. A hostile Europe will complicate matters. Russia's isolation has put pressure on China to establish closer relations with Europe, to prevent China from cooperating with the United States. One of the best ways for China to achieve this goal is to reassert itself as a peace agent in the conflict in Europe. The problem with Russia is difficult for Mr. President. Xi's thoughts on Taiwan. The Ukrainian War of made two things clear: a strong army did not guarantee success in the war. Anything that doesn't work can lead to a cultural struggle. Given this, provoking a war across the Taiwan Strait through further aggression could be disastrous for the Chinese leadership. The autonomous island will hold presidential elections in January to choose Tsai Ing-wen's successor. Tsai Ing-wen angered Beijing by forging closer ties with the United States. China appears to have used various methods to oppose trade with Taiwan or to spread misinformation to rivals who have improved relations with Beijing. But Chinese aggression and the threat of military action around Taiwan could undermine this goal by encouraging rivals to oppose relations with China, regardless of stronger and more visible support for Taiwan in the United States and the international community. The best way to learn is to be strong, determined, and not give up. Given these changes, Beijing's leaders now know that they must soften relations with the United States. The standoff in U.S.-Chinese relations caused by secrecy in February showed signs of conflict during Foreign Minister Blinken's visit to China, including meetings with Xi Jinping last month and this week's Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen. The Chinese president still needs his close friends. Russia remains the only country in the world that is able and willing to work with China to evade its role in human rights and democratic governance. The relationship also expands the border and provides China with cheap Russian energy, food, and military equipment imports. Both parties must have similar business interests. But Xi Jinping may be a little too good for Putin's comeback, and Putin's problems do not benefit China's grand schemes. There are still many unanswered questions about Putin's influence on the Russian administration. Xi Jinping is currently in power but has no influence. Editorials and ideas: Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Chinese power. Russia adds, let's look at plausible killing tactics, as we saw in Ukraine and Yemen. Next Bureau, July 10, 2023, 1927. Meta's themed app and Twitter logo pictured. Photo, Reuters. New Delhi, the media is pleased to announce halfway through the Meta set this week. An app designed to compete with Twitter. Unfortunately, this presents itself as a business battle between Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. The war between two terrorists who witnessed the murder of thousands of young people in the name of the state is always a special massacre, as we have seen in Ukraine and Yemen. Musk and Zuckerberg are not bad people. Highly successful people build great companies, hire thousands of talented people, and achieve great things. Master Elon and Master Zach, to use their names, fight in the school cafeteria, filled with hilarious one-liners and reflexive insults. Especially when Elon kicked the basket against Zach, who was responding to his place request. What else summoned him? At last count, Zav reached 90 million users within 4 days of going live. That's almost a third of Twitter users. ChatGPT reached 100 million users in 2 months, TikTok reached 100 million users in 9 months, Meta's Instagram reached 100 million users in 24 months, so Elon 0, Zuck 1. It seems that Thread is with Instagram, where 2.25 billion Instagram users can register. In addition to Insta fans, most of Thread's registered users are Twitter exiles fed up with Musk's mishandling of social media, after taking $44 billion from Case last year. Musk fired 70% of his employees, changed the rules in his favor, and opened the door to trolls in the name of freedom of speech. His no-nonsense approach has turned Twitter into a chaotic platform where he has no idea who is buying the blue ticks. But there is a deeper problem with this claim. On the surface, Thread challenges Twitter's monopoly and its influence on freedom of expression. Another platform where people can comment freely without being affected by Musk's negative behavior is welcome. It's worth noting, however, that Meta is a monopoly, as Musk wanted Twitter to be. The right to freedom of expression bows before all criminals in the world. The EU is investigating data privacy, and the answer to any challenge to its economic regulation is to stay around and eat amoeba. These features are not unique to Meta or Twitter. How real hypocrisy is on internet platforms is a modern mystery. The results always live up to their promise. Not everyone knows the international freedom they want to participate in, but today our country is at the mercy of traitors. Be it Google, Meta, or YouTube, they all rule the law, seek to open up to all business people, and ultimately find the answer to become the world's largest business. They are said to be a platform for ideas, but they are also a tool advertisers use to disrupt all the debates of the day and give birth to today's terrorists. Elon v. Zach isn't a debater, he's a wealthy student debater. At that time, one of them will perish or be defeated, and the winner will open the door to powerful people, publicity, and leaders.